Welcome to today's webinar. It's October 8th, Wednesday. We love Webinar Wednesday here at Soundstripe. So thank you for joining us. We have a great session today. I've been with Soundstripe now for about a year, and I didn't really come out of the traditional music business. And so one of the big learning curves for me was around music licensing and the specifics of music licensing. And I really have learned a ton around that since I started. And a lot of people come up to me and they talk about, Jeff, I don't understand licensing. It's so confusing. It's so complicated. And that's why we're doing this webinar today. We want to give you really a roadmap for how you as an organization need to think about music licensing, the important aspects of music licensing, and how to make sure you have coverage for your projects so there's no issue down the road. So this is going to be a great session. My name is Jeff Perkins. I am the CEO of Soundstripe. I'm joined by Josh Collum, who's our VP of Music. And this is going to be a really great interactive session today. For those who are not familiar with Soundstripe, we are one of the leading music licensing platforms globally. We have an amazing library of about 58,000 audio tracks. We have almost 100,000 sound effects, and we work with over 1 million creators globally. And our music has been streamed in over 400 billion projects since we started the company about 9 years ago. So we really, really deeply care about our music and the quality of our music. We have full-time composers on staff. We have amazing award-winning sound engineers here that mix the songs to perfection. We are Nashville-based, so music's kind of in our DNA. And so if you're interested in music for your next project, definitely check us out. You have probably heard our songs in various projects. I threw a couple of them up on the screen here, but we've been featured in everything from Netflix shows to big television commercials, video games, and we were in a Super Bowl ad this year for the brand Circle. So our music really is all over the place. And even though you don't know it's Soundstripe music when you're watching the show or the commercial, you probably have heard of us, or even though you didn't know it was us. So you definitely check out our library. One thing I do want to highlight that we just introduced a product called On Brand. And so this is really valuable for anyone out there who's doing television commercials, anyone who's doing work for a specific brand. One of the challenges when you have a library with 58,000 audio tracks in it, it's like, where do you start? How do I find the perfect song for my project? And so what On Brand does is it basically aligns our library and our catalog to your brand voice and your brand personality. So instead of 58,000 audio tracks, we'll cull it down to maybe the top 5,000 that really fit with your brand voice, with your brand personality. So it's a very useful tool, really gets you to the right song selection faster. And as we all know, picking the right song for your project, a lot of times that's the most painful part of any creative endeavor. So really trying to help you get to the right song faster. So if you're interested in On Brand, reach out to us. We can walk you through it, but a very, very innovative tool, again, that takes some of the guesswork and some of the complications out of picking the perfect song for your next project. People are always asking me, like, Jeff, what are some of the top tracks in the library? So I have put together, if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to a playlist in Soundstripe of my favorite tracks. Now, Josh may have different view on what his favorite tracks are, but
yeah, I want to know what your track. I want to see what
these are what I would call the bangers in our library. So a lot of the popular vocal tracks, just some of the really unique songs that we have to offer. So if you kind of want just a sampling of the music that we have to offer in our catalog, definitely check that out. So we're going to jump into the content of the session now. Some of you during the session, as we're talking, you may have questions. There's a Q&A button that's on the bottom of the screen there. Just submit your questions and we'll answer them sometimes in real time. We'll stop Josh and maybe if something comes up, or definitely we'll take most of the questions at the end. I'll be monitoring the Q&A throughout. So Definitely don't be shy. We love to answer your questions and definitely keep in touch. We love talking to people about the projects they're working on, the music, and how our music could fit within those projects. So definitely reach out to us if there's anything we can help you with regarding music. We are here and we're here. We're happy to talk with you. So with that, I am going to introduce the agenda for today. So we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about what is this thing called sync licensing. We're going to talk about some of the big mistakes that we see across a lot of the businesses and a lot of the customers we work with when it comes to sync licensing. We're going to talk about some solutions to those problems, and we'll take your questions at the end. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Josh Collum. Josh is our VP of Music. He has really a long career in the music space, really an expert on all things music and licensing. So, Josh, I'm going to hand it over to you. Take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you all for coming and listening to us talk for a little bit. Not to break the fourth wall a little bit, but that arm that you see kind of jumping into mine, that is in fact Jeff. So don't get freaked out by that. It's like, who is that person sitting next to him? It's him. Just pretend we're in separate rooms. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. My goal today in this webinar is to really focus on things that you can't Google, things you can't throw into Chat GBT and kind of figure out because anybody can do that. At Soundstripe, we're very lucky that we have the experience of scale. We talk to so many customers, we see so many issues pop up in sync, and we've been around it so long that we're really able to see what those major top mistakes are that pop up a lot. And so that's what we've chosen to talk about today. A little bit more about me. Jeff did a great job of introing, but I've been working in sync for about 20 years. I know what you're thinking. You're saying, man, did you start at 10? And that's very nice of you to say that. I appreciate you guys saying that. But I started as a recording artist. I did that for a few years and then had my own company and was lucky enough to work on a few projects. And I'll show you a few projects I worked on. You maybe have heard of a few of them. I was lucky enough to license music for Mad Men and Breaking Bad and Big Bang Theory and Glee and Walking Dead. I was able to work with the iconic Sun Records catalog and build their in-house sync team. So I was able to, work with Johnny Cash songs and Jerry Lee Lewis songs and Roy Orbison songs. And through that, learned a lot. If there's been any kind of license, I've probably done it, whether it's a big broadcast spot or video games, even virtual reality, all the way to, on hold music for nursing homes. And that's not a joke. I've actually licensed music for that. So for the last 3 years, I've been at Soundstripe. And what's been really cool about that is just the scale that I was talking about. And we're able to do so much work and license so much music for so many different kinds of things. One of the things that we just licensed that we're super excited about that we're going to show you here in a second is Ford, for the first time in the last 12 years, ran one of their biggest global campaigns. And we were lucky enough to be a part of that with a song called Survive by an artist named Jeeve Smith. And we'll show you that spot. We did a social spot for them. Yeah, such a fun one. Super proud to be a part of that one. So as we jump into the topic today, I want to start by kind of setting a foundation of just what is sync licensing. A lot of people might not know this. It stands for synchronization licensing, and it's the process of granting permission to use that piece of music anytime it's synced with visual media. So basically, anytime that you have a song that is paired with video, you need a license for that use. To break it down a little further, every song has two sides. There's the master recording, which is the audio recording that you hear. And then underlying that is the publishing, the composition, and that is the lyric and the melody. And those are owned by different people generally. A master might be owned by the artist or a record label. A composition might be owned by the songwriter and the publisher. That's really important foundation information as we kind of roll through this because it's gonna come up again. Um, Before we start diving into this, I want to do a poll question just to see where you guys are at. I think it's the next slide, Jeff. So, how many publishers do you think are on Alien Superstar, which is one of the more popular songs on Beyonce's Renaissance album? So is it one publisher? Is it three publishers? Is it 10 publishers? Is it 23 or is it zero because Beyonce is a gift to us all from an all-knowing being and she needs no songwriters to create her magical music? What do you guys think it is? A lot of people think there's a ton of publishers on here and saying 10 seems to be where the majority, over half of the folks going. Or are you just doing that thing where like, oh, C is always the answer, so we're just going with that. All right, looks like 10 is by far the winner here for 46%. Let's see what the actual answer is. Amazingly, it's 23. I actually went and added this up. There are officially 23 publishers on that song. And my point in this is that sync licensing is complicated. It can be so easy to make mistakes in this world when you've got so many stakeholders at play. And so that's what we're gonna cover here as we jump into these mistakes. We're gonna talk about maybe the top three that we see the most, and we're gonna give you some solutions for them. So let's jump into the first one. Mistake number one, licensing a cover of a hit song is a clever way to avoid having to deal with major music companies. Yes and no. Okay. So when a cover is made of a song, that means maybe an independent artist. So it's not the hit main artist like Beyonce recording the song. It's an independent artist that's a lot easier to deal with. And you can license their master recording of the song. And that can be a great option. If you go look at most trailers these days, they're actually mostly covers. And those are independent artists doing, covers of those hit songs. But when you have a cover, you still have to license both sides of the song, the master and the publishing. So for example, if there were an independent artist that licensed or that did a cover of Alien Superstar, yes, you could go that independent artist. You could get a pretty easy license probably on that master recording, but guess what? You have to get all 23 of those publishers to sign off on that sync license. Probably not the best way to go. So it requires a strong publisher relationship. You have to have deep relationships within the music industry. Luckily, Soundstripe has that. It's in our DNA. Our co-founders come from the music industry. And so we love making covers. We do a lot of custom covers. We have customers come to us all the time and ask us, to make a cover of a hit song, and we're able to go, okay, maybe not that one because you're going to have trouble clearing the publishing, but maybe this one. And so one example of one that we did here, we'll play in a second, is we did a string cover of a Nick Jonas song called "Jealous," and it was actually used in a show you've probably heard of called Bridgerton. We'll take a listen here for a few beats. Love that one. If you can go back one slide, I want to share one little thing with you guys that a lot of people don't know, and this is one of those things you can't just Google and find this out. And I want to share it because it comes up a lot. Some artists and songwriters actually retain sync approval rights even on the cover versions. So Prince and now Prince Estate is kind of a classic example of this, and it's why if you think about it, how many covers have you heard out there in ads or TV and film from Prince? None really, because when he was alive, he had approval rights for all of the covers that wanted to be synced. So something to keep in mind too as you navigate this. This is why those industry relationships are really important. So the second mistake, after I secure a license for broadcast use, I'm good to go. My job is done. So if you're licensing for socials, if you're licensing for presentation in that for that trade show or independent film, you are done. You're good. But if your project goes to broadcast, then you have to fill out what's called a Q sheet, or the production company that ends up broadcasting your project has to fill out a Q sheet. It's really, really important. A Q sheet it's essentially a way for songwriters to be paid performance royalties, which is really important. And there's also a legal component to this. Broadcasters, NBC, HBO, Netflix, they have a legal obligation to pay those performing rights royalties. And so the way that they know what's in that project is a Q sheet. Q sheets are not very interesting. They're pretty boring, but they're really made up of, this is this thing you're looking at here, this image. It's not a Q sheet specifically, but it is kind of components of what's in that. Generally, you have, where that song is being used. A lot of time there's a time code there. You have the song title, of course, the writer, and the publisher for that writer. And then very importantly, how it's being used. Is it a feature vocal? Is it a background vocal? Or is it a background instrumental? Those are typically the three breakdowns. And if you're an individual, if you're a freelancer, you want to work with, whoever that production company is that you're working with, and make sure that you're able to get them that information so they can fill out that Q sheet. It's a really important piece. And I want to be clear, you're not responsible for paying those performance royalties as an individual or as anyone that produced the content. It's the broadcaster. The broadcaster actually pays those royalties, but they need that information in order to make that happen. So we can help there, right? So we have a person on our team. His name's Eric. He's dedicated to Q sheets. He's actually going to working with our customers. He's actually going to process 1,000 Q sheets this year. So it's a big part of what we do. You can use the email address broadcast@soundstripe.com, broadcast@soundstripe.com. If you have just questions, it goes straight to Eric about that. Or if you do need to fill out a Q sheet because maybe your film got picked up to go to Amazon Prime or whatever, and you're all of a sudden, oh man, what do I need to do here? Just hit Eric on that email if you're already a customer, and he can walk you through that process and we can help you out. One other thing on the pro tip. So OTT, you might have heard this. It's over the top, which again, in many occasions here in the music industry and entertainment industry, that doesn't really make sense. But what it actually means is any kind of broadcast that happens via streaming. So that's Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max. Some people think OTT isn't broadcast. It is. We're in a new age, obviously, with streaming TV. That is just like NBC, ABC, CBS. So if you've always had that question of, oh, wow, my project's going to OTT. I don't know if that's broadcast or not. Does it need a Q sheet? It does. All right. Finally, the third one. This is a big one. We see it more and more. And if you look there on the side of that slide, you'll see just a few of some of the big litigations that have happened around this. So uh, the mistake is TikTok has fully licensed all the songs on its platform, making it easy for me to use them however I'd like. Wouldn't that be nice if that were the case? But TikTok has deals with, once again, labels, publishers, many major labels, major publishers, and they have a seat at the table and they've negotiated certain restrictions. And a lot of people don't really understand. And to be honest with you, TikTok doesn't do a great job, to be fair, of communicating what those restrictions are. And so this is a big one because it has a big money impact. A lot of people don't know this. Each copyright infringement, which is what this is that we're going to be talking about when you're using a song that isn't properly licensed on TikTok or anywhere, has up to $150,000 under copyright law penalty. So that's how you get the $24 million that Crumble is being sued for. They've added up all of the videos that are using music that are infringing on the copyright, and that's where they're getting that amount. So that can really add up. You want to make sure that you're doing things right here. So the first piece of this is really understanding the types of use on TikTok. There's personal use and there's commercial use. And what just to really break that down, what that really means is if it's for brand, if it's for an ad, it's commercial use. And influencers are not exempt from this. I think where some people and some companies make mistakes, and this is where a lot of these are getting sued on, they think, well, an influencer is an individual. It's a personal use. We've hired them. They're kind of over here doing their thing. No, they're still being hired to promote a product, even if it looks like a personal use. And so that's where the crackdown is, and that's not a loophole. And so that is commercial use. TikTok has two libraries. They have the general music library, which is very large. It has millions of copyrights and songs in it. And then they have the commercial music library, which is much smaller, hundreds of thousands of songs. If you're using songs in the commercial music library, those are covered for commercial use. A lot of people get in trouble when they go into that general music library and then use that song for what ends up being a commercial use. So, how do you avoid this? And how can Soundstripe help you avoid this? Well, when you're uploading a track or when you're uploading content, there's something called a music usage confirmation. It's a little checkbox. And if you're using Soundstripe music and you check that box, basically what that's telling TikTok is, hey, we've legally licensed this music, potentially off platform. We've created our own content and we're uploading the content. It's safe. That's the first way around this. Today, that's how you can use Soundstripe music. But I want to break a little news here as well. Um, Literally, as of this week, we have confirmed with TikTok that we're going to be delivering our music to the TikTok commercial music library. So in the near future, you're gonna be able to on platform, our music will pop up and you'll be able to select our music within the commercial music library too, which is a very, very large deal. We're very, very excited about it. So you're gonna be safe from all of this stuff when you're using our music uh, on TikTok. Oh, there's one other pro tip that's another one that you can't. It's really tough to Google. It's tough to find. It's one that I kind of found out recently. In these negotiations with labels and publishers and TikTok, one of the things that they did is they said there's a limit to how long the song can be, and that's 90 seconds. So whether you've got it legally licensed for commercial use or not, if you have a song that lasts more than 90 seconds, it will get muted, no matter if you've legally licensed it or not. So that's something to really keep in mind as you're creating your content and uploading it to TikTok. Yeah, so that's our three mistakes and how we can help solve them. I hope that that's been helpful. I hope that that's been some useful information that maybe you haven't heard before. And yeah, I'm sure there's questions that have popped up in the Q&A in the chat, and happy to Jeff and I are happy to answer whatever you got out there.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Josh. A lot of good, useful information there. Yeah, I got a bunch of questions in, and feel free to submit more questions as we're going. One question that came in, what do I need to do if I'm live streaming on YouTube or Instagram? Do I need to do anything beyond the sync license?
Wow, that is a great question, and I love that that's not a one-on-one question because that tells me that we've got some smart folks in the audience. So that is when you live stream, you have two licenses happening. Your sync license, which you're covered for with Soundstripe if you're using Soundstripe music, but you also have a performance license. So the way that you get that public performance license is through they're called PROs, Performing Rights Organizations. It's in the U.S. That's ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. are the main ones. So if you go to their site, I'm sure very, very early on in their FAQs, they're going to talk about live streaming. Depending on where you're streaming, and I believe YouTube would be one of these, there's likely already a deal in place between the PRO and the platform you're using. So you won't have to do any additional paperwork or licensing. It's likely already covered. In fact, YouTube, I'm positive it is. So what that means is when you live stream, uh, they have that deal with YouTube. So let's say ASCAP, for example. ASCAP is monitoring that use, and if they have any songwriters that you're using their music, they will pay them performance royalties for the music that you're live streaming. And you should be covered completely. If you're using Soundstripe music, certainly covered on any kind of live stream. It does depend on the platform, though. So you need to make sure that your platform's covered under those performance licenses.
Are there differences between the platforms? Does YouTube have different requirements than TikTok, than Meta, or are they all basically the same?
They're all basically the same because they're doing deals with the same organizations. There might be some small restrictions, some different royalty rates, but generally they're going to be all the same if they have that deal in place, which is the important part.
Okay. Copyright notices. We got a couple questions in about people constantly getting copyright notices, even though they have the rights to the songs. What should people do in those cases?
So I'm assuming this is with Soundstripe music or not Soundstripe music. Let's assume it's with Soundstripe music, and let's assume it's on TikTok, I guess, because we
This
were
is
talking about
specific
TikTok.
to YouTube, actually.
Oh, specifically to
Yeah.
YouTube. So they should definitely contact our customer care team, and they'll loop you in with the aforementioned Eric. I promise he's a real person. He's not AI. And Eric clears those claims within seconds. Generally, those claims are very rare. We have hundreds of millions of videos using our music. We get very, very few claims. But sometimes there are reasons that sometimes it's not our music. Sometimes your content might be using multiple pieces of music and you might be getting the claim on the other piece. Sometimes it's a visual. It's actually not the audio. There's lots of reasons why YouTube can put a claim on a piece of content, but we have an expert in-house, Eric, that customer care will certainly connect you with if you hit them up, and we can investigate, basically.
Okay. Question about using music in courses, like on online classes on Zoom. Any restrictions in using music, licensing music on online courses?
Generally, no. If you're a subscriber of ours, that's covered in our subscriptions. If you're not a subscriber of ours, we have single song licenses that we've actually done quite a bit for courses like you have there. So, there's multiple ways to get you covered in that situation. But if you're already a customer or subscriber, you're covered under those for sure.
Okay. So if you create a video in TikTok using the TikTok music, assume it's the commercial music, you download that TikTok, can you upload that to Meta and YouTube and have the same coverage that you would have on TikTok?
You can't. Not well, you can if you're using our music because our music is covered for
Okay.
socials everywhere. But if you download the music and create the content within TikTok and then upload that to Meta and YouTube with a TikTok video, you might run into some other problems um, that aren't audio related. But if you're using our music, if you're a customer of ours, you can use our music across all socials.
Yeah. So generally, we get this question a lot. If you're using music, even the commercial music in TikTok, that music, that license does not necessarily apply if you download that video and then you put it up on Meta on Instagram, you're not going to have the rights to that license to use
Specifically for
that
TikTok.
music on TikTok. That's the music in the commercial library, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
It's
So
limited.
so what we always recommend is if you're using Soundstripe music, use that one track. You have a license to that track. You can use it on your TikTok videos, your YouTube videos, your Insta videos, whatever social platform you're using. You can use that same music across. Whereas if you're going to use the platform music, you'll have to use a different song on TikTok,
Exactly, yeah.
different song on Insta, different song on YouTube. And they probably don't have all the same songs in their commercial library. So generally, if you're doing videos across the platforms, it's good to license one song and then put that song in all your different
Yeah, that's
projects.
the beauty of the Soundstripe subscription license is you're covered across all platforms. No matter what comes up, you're covered. No matter where your project ends up, you're covered. Versus directly on platform, you're restricted to just that platform.
Okay. What about live events?
Using the music at live events.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a public performance license, right? So if you recall at the beginning of when we were defining what sync licenses is, it's when when your music is synced to a video. That's a synchronization license, which is what we sell. Um, if your music is playing at a live event, that's a public performance, and so that goes through the performance rights organizations.
Okay. If someone out there wants a cover and they'd like us to work on a cover, what's the process? Who would they reach out to?
Yeah, great question. Me, that's who you'd reach out to, Josh at soundstripe.com. Yeah, I mean, we love creating custom music. I think a lot of folks are just starting to kind of get hip that we do that. And we're kind of built for it. We have composers on staff, we have artists all over the world that we work with. We're constantly creating music. We have mix engineers in-house, so we own the full pre and post-production process. And yeah, covers is a thing that we love doing. It's worked for a lot of our customers, and you can just reach out to me if it's something that you want to explore.
Okay. Will we do like any cover or like if you want to cover what's the hot Life of Ophelia, Taylor the new Taylor Swift song, is that available for a cover
I
right
would
now?
not recommend doing that one. Taylor Swift is one of those ones that had sync right approvals, which is probably not a surprise to anyone. It's also why you don't hear a lot of Taylor Swift covers. Starting
Okay.
to make sense, right? So this is where, our institutional knowledge comes in handy because we can save you some time and some money by working on covers that can easily license on the publishing side, and we can steer you in the right direction and really talk to you about why you like that Taylor Swift song. Why does that song work for your project? We can distill that down and find other songs that work in that same way.
Yeah, and the other pro tip is that if there's a certain song you like, you may not be able to do a cover of that song, but we have in the Soundstripe platform a tool called Soup. It's our AI music supervisor, so you can put that song into Soup, and Soup will recommend songs from our library that actually have that same vibe, the same kind of sound that you're looking for in the song you want. So if you can't do a cover for that specific song, we have tons of songs that actually probably have a similar vibe that you can use within our library.
Yeah, so true. I was just playing around with that yesterday. If you were on the last webinar, you know that I love Soup. I love it. It's a great product. Use it. But I always try to test it to see how good it is. And the other day I'm a big Severance fan, the TV show, and that has a very unusual score. And so I said, hey, the macro data team is sitting down for getting started on their Q4 work. Give me a soundtrack. And it absolutely nailed it. Seriously, go test it. I promise you it did. So yeah, drop that in. It'll probably give you some really good options for covers that might have the same energy and vibe. And also, you still have to go get that clearance on the publishing, which can be expensive. So you might need a song that has that same energy and emotion, but isn't necessarily that cover of a hit song.
Yeah. So if I'm using a Soundstripe song in a television commercial, will I get a bill for a royalty payment? Am
No.
I going to get any kind of bill for additional payment?
Zero.
Okay.
No chance. It's not part of the process. That's not your role. It's not your job, and that'll never happen. That is the broadcaster's job. So when the ad agency or the brand make a media buy for their ad to run, that is between them and the broadcaster pays those royalties for that use to the performing rights organization, and the performing rights organization pays those songwriters. It's not a part of your process. But if you are, on the ground in the edit, you are in a unique position to let that production company or that agency know what that song is and what that writer is and what that publishing is. And so that's really your role, is to get them that information so they can turn in that cue sheet.
Got it. Got it. So the most important thing is, as a Soundstripe customer, you're not going to pay any more based on the usage. You buy the usage up front, whether it's through a subscription or through a single song purchase.
Absolutely.
And then that covers everything.
Yep.
There's no other additional payment. This is a really interesting question. I do influencer marketing for my brand. Um, can the influencers just use the music on TikTok and Meta? And I actually, they're saying, oh, can the influencers use the popular music on TikTok and Meta for my videos?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, if it's in the commercial music library, yes. If you're a Soundstripe customer, yes, because you've licensed the music for commercial use. And that license extends to those influencers. Um, where you get in trouble is when influencers, because if you're a influencer agency, then you likely know this. Uh, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen when they're deciding on these brand activations, and between the CMO, the agency, the brand, your agency, and there might be other agencies involved, there can be a lack of communication that trickles down of what can be used and what can't be used. And a lot of times, influencers, if not guided from the top down of what music is available to them that's legally licensed, they might go into the general music library and grab a song. And that's where brands get in trouble. Because if an influencer does that and uses it for commercial use, the brand is liable, not just the influencer. And because they're a part of that chain. So that's where the breakdown happens. The breakdown happens when that communication breaks down and they don't know what songs they can license. We work with a big ad agency, McCann in New York. And what they've done is they have about 150 influencers that they use for various brands. We created a little mini library for them and said, "Hey, your influencers can go to town on these songs." And it was a way to kind of make sure that there were guardrails on what their influencers could use. Um, but yeah, if we want to talk to more influencer agencies, so hit us up because I think we could be a good partner on that.
So the most important point you're making though is uh, if you're doing influencer marketing, you have to check the asset that the influencer is creating before they post.
Yes.
And to ensure, just like if you were doing a broadcast commercial, you're always going to check, all right, do we have the rights to the music? You want to do the same thing in the influencer marketing videos and make sure you have the complete rights to the music so you don't potentially put your brand at legal risk. Because the thing that we've seen is that the music companies are not going to sue the influencer
Right.
or the influencer agency because they don't necessarily have the deepest pockets. They're going to go right after the brand.
Yep.
And that's what Crumble Cookie saw. That's what Marriott has seen. That's what University of Southern California, DSW Shoe Warehouse, all of those organizations have been sued for because they've done influencer marketing. Influencers have used popular music in their videos, and and they got caught. And in some cases, these are $100 million plus lawsuits.
Yeah.
And so you just have to be super careful with influencer marketing that you have really good policies and procedures around what music, what assets are used, so you're not putting your brand or your company at risk.
Yeah, and the precedent was set with the Bang energy drink litigation from 2 or 3 years ago. Was really the first one, and basically the precedent that was set is that the brand is responsible for the influencers, even if there's five different kind of breakoffs of branches, they're still ultimately responsible for that. And so that's been a big, it's still getting, put together in the right way. But if you're an influencer marketing agency, it's very important for you to have that top-down information of what can my clients actually use from a musical perspective.
Okay, this is an interesting one. I'm a freelance editor. I have a Soundstripe subscription. Can I use Soundstripe music for commercial work I'm doing for my clients, which are big brands?
Yeah, so yes, you can. The key difference here, and the key, I assume you're a pro subscriber. If you said that, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
Assume you're a pro subscriber. And so that subscription is designed for individuals, individual freelancers, right? So you are covered from a legal perspective, from an indemnity perspective. So if for some reason someone said, no, that song is mine, that's not a Soundstripe song, we would protect you against that erroneous claim because obviously we make all of our music, so it's definitely ours. Now, where things get out of that scenario, your clients, your brand clients can still absolutely legally license that music. They are part of that license. But if that claim is made, we do not protect them. We will not, they're going to basically have to defend themselves, which could cost money. This is something that a lot of brands are okay with, especially on social spots, because there's not a ton of ultimate risk for saying that a song isn't theirs. Broadcast spots, they generally like to extend that indemnity, and we can do that on a one-off basis a lot of times. We can just do we call it a custom sync license, where we just, for that one project or that one ad spot, we can extend that indemnity and coverage for that project. But to answer your question, we protect you from a legal perspective. The license extends to your clients, but uh, any type of legal protection against an erroneous copyright claim, they would need to defend themselves. So it's a rare situation, but it's important to know for sure.
Yeah, that would be really bad if you're a freelancer doing client work and then your client gets hit with any kind of claim, lawsuit. My recommendation, especially for free, because there's so many freelance post-production people out there that do work for agencies and big brands. The Pro plan is great. You can do all of your rough cuts in it. You don't have to if you have a free account, you can use our music too, but it's all watermarked. And so it's not great because you're going to hear someone saying Soundstripe every 5 seconds in those songs. So the Pro plan, you get full access to the library for your individual projects. So if you're doing a sizzle reel for yourself, if you're doing rough cuts for clients and you want to show them specific songs, but then when it comes to your client work, it's good to make sure that you're securing the rights to those songs for your client. So either your client could buy that specific song themselves, you can pass along the cost to them, but we always recommend don't try to cover all of your clients under an individual license because that's not what it was meant for. Make sure you have the coverage to the specific songs for the clients you're working on, or maybe your client wants to also get a subscription to Soundstripe, and then you can use the song under their enterprise subscription. But if you have questions on this, it's really important that you have the rights coverage locked down. So, reach out to us. We can walk you through it. Yeah, we have tons of freelancer customers at Soundstripe, and we want to make sure you're not just covering yourself, but you're also covering all the client work that you're doing as well. So reach out if you have any questions, if there's any gray area, we're happy to help you there. Okay, Josh, next question. This is sort of the question of the hour. Talk
Okay.
about AI music and how licensing works for AI music and what's happening in that kind of fast evolving space.
Wow, we're going deep. I like it. Yeah. So let me first differentiate. AI is lots of things. It's not just generative things. So I'm going to specifically talk about generative music. So, and I believe that's the context of the question. So, this is when a new work is being generated by an AI prompt or along those lines. So there's a lot going on in this space. It's an incredibly interesting, complicated, exciting, scary space right now that's getting worked out ultimately in the courts. But so the things that are out there right now, which is, Suno, Udio, those are kind of the leading companies. They have a couple of models, but what they came to prominence with is they basically scrape the entire internet under the context of fair use, which means fair use is a pretty specific term. It's basically non-commercial use, educational, or for the greater good of society. Essentially, we're doing something for the greater good. Uh, that was their reasoning behind it. So they scrape YouTube, they scrape Spotify. Basically got the world's music, they put it into their learning model, and that was how new works were coming through and creating. This, in my opinion, is rampant copyright infringement. They are currently in large litigation battles with all of the labels and publishers. They are arguing that they're under fair use. They're going to lose that argument. And then I think what will ultimately happen is they'll end up doing licensing deals with the major labels, the major publishers, ultimately the indie labels and the indie publishers. So right now, if you're a brand or if you work with brands, which I probably assume this person might be if they're asking about this, uh, it's it's not a safe space. Most brands we deal with don't want to touch it right now because you just don't know what's going on. You don't know what's legal, what's not. But I would say in the next 18 to 24 months, this is something that might come to the market in a way. I think, you know, I'm kind of 50% artist, 50% business person, which can be really frustrating sometimes. But my artistic side hasn't heard anything quite interesting coming out of those models yet, particularly with vocals, particularly with songwriting. I do think there's maybe some ambient and some of those things that are interesting, but I think that this is generative AI is something that we are certainly well aware of. We think that it's something that could be additive to the marketplace, but it's a good couple years away before I would say it will be something to be safe to use in a commercial setting. And then generally speaking, AI tools, we use AI tools. Soup is, Chat GPT powered. So we certainly, as a company, view it as something that can create more creative efficiency, and we certainly embrace that when we can. Generative AI with music is a longer road that we're on.
Yeah, I'll add 2 points on that. If you are looking at some of the AI music creation tools out there for use in any kind of commercial project, you're going to want to dive really deep on the licensing terms and the coverage there and just make sure that you have certain guarantees, you have indemnity, and that you are not going to be subject to any lawsuit. So if you create a song in an AI platform and that song sounds a lot like a Taylor Swift song or a Pink song, it's because those platforms basically trained on those libraries, right? And so if that song ends up in your project, you could have some liability. So it's really important that you understand how the platforms are looking to protect your company. And it's a bit hazy right now how that's going to work. And that's why a lot of the companies we deal with, they're not ready to go that route yet. And they want to have the lockdown rights coverage protection, which companies like Soundstripe provide. The other thing that we have, though, within our system, we have what's called our AI song editor. And so you can go into any Soundstripe song and you can basically recreate it. So you can drag and drop elements of the song in a different order. It remasters the song, turns it into really a new work that you can use. Now, but because that's based on our original song that we own all the rights to, that's still covered under everything that we have at Soundstripe. So you don't have to worry. So if you're using our AI editing tool, there are other AI editing tools out there with some of the other music providers. Because it's based on an owned copyright, owned IP, that's usually fine. It's where the AI has trained on other people's IP and has not really figured out how those people are going to be compensated. That's where it gets pretty dicey pretty quickly. So we always say just, like you just don't want to even be distracted with a lawsuit. Just work with a vendor that actually has the rights to their music and you'll be totally fine.
It's an incredibly good point. So the fact that we own our entire catalog, which is very unique, even with a lot of our competitors, it allows us to be able to do that. So the one thing I'll leave you with on that, if you can't answer when you create this new output, if you can't answer the question, what were the inputs that created that output? What were the songs that created that output? Then you need to stay away from it. because it's a risk right now. If you're in our AI editor and you create a new track, you can answer that question. I know what song this was created from, and it's still under that license.
Yeah. This is a good question that came in. Can I put my script or describe a scene or and get suggestions on music? Can I, upload a photo or just type a description of the vibe I'm going for?
And soup, yeah, absolutely. It's what I love doing. I love the thing I love about soup is it does exactly that. It it perfectly works for the person like you sitting in a seat that's thinking about a visual that has a prompt in mind, that's thinking about what a drone shot over the cliffs in Ireland. Like you can get like that specific and it will know what you mean emotionally. So that's the best way to engage soup actually is to describe a scene, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the cool thing about soup, from my perspective, is it's conversational. So you say, "Hey, I'm doing a documentary about this subject. I'm going for this vibe, this tone." You could really go, like you could, describe the scene in great detail, and then soup will give you kind of a first pass, like, Here's some suggested songs," but then it'll actually come back to you with a question like, "Oh, do you want more?" Melodic instrumentals? Do you want more of a rock vibe? It'll ask you questions, and you could kind of keep refining the search results based on a two-way dialogue with Soup. So really a nice way to get to the right song faster. And when I'm doing projects and I'm looking in Soup, usually I get to my ideal song choice within about 5 minutes, or at least I'll have a short list of songs within about 5 minutes, which is much faster than when I used to go through like a traditional search and filtering process, which could just take hours to get to the right song. So definitely, Michael, thanks for that question. Play around with Soup a bit and let us know if that kind of meets your needs. But I think you can even upload a picture into Soup if there's a certain setting, and it'll kind of give you some suggestions based on that. I want to get to this one last question, and then we'll sort of land the plane here. Google Ads. So if I'm doing a Google ad with video, do I need to submit a cue sheet?
Wow, I've never had that question or heard that question. Um, my gut is no, because that's a social use. Anything that's used in a social environment and not a broadcast environment, you wouldn't need a cue sheet. And so I believe a Google Ads use is mainly going to live in a social environment.
All
Great
right.
question, though.
All right.
Maybe just Google it. See if you can find
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Ending
I'm
on a
gonna,
bad joke, right?
yeah,
There
there you
you
go.
go.
I want to share the screen one more second because we have, if you want to follow up with us, I'm just going to share, here's some, so here's a quick QR code. If you want to connect with us on anything, just use this QR code, submit your information. Um, or you can just email us directly. Josh is josh.column at soundstripe.com. I'm jeff.perkins at soundstripe.com. You can also hit us up on LinkedIn. But yeah, definitely reach out to us. We would love to talk with you more about this subject. And then, I also just wanted to share this is another playlist. If you didn't like my personal curated playlist, this is our latest track. So we're adding new music to the platform really on a weekly basis. And like I said before, our artists, who are like they've worked with Lord and Beyonce and
Yeah, we've
Miley
got one that's
Cyrus.
working with Gracie playing guitar for Gracie Abrams right now. We have another one that just had a song on the last Doja Cat record. These are the kind of folks we're working with, so we're lucky to have
Yeah.
those folks in our world.
Aaron Sprinkle, one of our composers, he just did a song with Teddy Swims. So
Yep.
the songs you're getting in our library, while they're not popular per se, they're created by artists who are working with some of the biggest popular music stars right now. So definitely check those out. I did see a question. Just want to get to before everyone drops. If there, I think a couple singer-songwriters are on the webinar. If they have songs and they want to work with us and get involved in sync, should they reach out to you, Josh?
Yeah, yeah. Just reach out to me, and we love working with new artists. We get emails from new artists every day. So yeah, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, and we do these sync camps from time to time also.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're virtual, sometimes they're in person. So another good way to one, just connect with the industry, meet a bunch of artists, and maybe get some songs that end up in our catalog. They end up in our catalog. Next thing you know, you might be in a Super Bowl ad. So really, we'd love to talk with you. We always love to keep an eye out for new artists, fresh kind of sounds. So yeah, definitely connect with us if you have some music that you'd like to share. And with that, I'm going to wrap this webinar. Thank you again for joining us. You'll get an email after this, but we'll probably have an announcement on our next webinar coming up soon. We do about one a month. So definitely reach out if we can help you in any way. And thanks for your time today. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.